So welcome to this again another live stream. I'm Ilalamin, and here we are exploring the ongoing transition into AI economy. Now, I've been doing a couple of streams about talking about getting an idea about how AI gonna evolve at the same day, the same actually way that it evolved, that internet evolved since the 1990s. But I think what's fascinating, and this is why I named this live stream, um, you know, the basically I wanted to show you, based on a lot of simulation and a lot of experimentation that I did with AI for the last years, how AI is going to be used like 10 years from now by 2035. Because I came to the conclusions that the way we use AI right now and the way some people, some so-called expert teach how to use AI is kind of not the way AI is going to be used in the future. There's technical limitations why it's not used the way it's supposed to use, but it's also that it's a new technology and we're not used to 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 use it in a certain way. That's the real the real um, the real situation right now. Most people are using AI mostly as like a vending machines, basically, or a glorified search engine. Why I'm saying vending machines? Because they enter a prompt, and by the way, a lot of people thinks the prompt needs to be perfect. No, it's not. No, or you need to enter a specific the prompt, like this is some people that create courses, they decided, well, they didn't decide, but they create a whole science from prompting. But in reality, if we look at how AI is working, how the real results, the prompting is not that important. I mean, as long as you provide AI with enough data, even if it's not structured, even if it's the most imperfect one, AI will be capable to give you something relevant based on the data you provided, or based on the details and specifications you provided. So there's no perfect way to prompt AI to, or in other words, there's no perfect way to give AI any specific instructions. As long as you provide enough data, you'll get the relevant information or the relevant answer. That said, many, and I hear that on every presentation, there's somebody like a so-called expert will say, well, try AI, and if it doesn't give you, try and just to get something from AI, and if this time it will not give you a good answer, try in 3 months. No, like laughing. And this is not how to use AI. I mean, it's not just you enter a prompt and you get an answer and that's it. No, I mean, AI is supposed to be a contextual tool. It's supposed to, you're supposed to iterate on top of it, by providing, as much data as possible and actually make sure that AI learns from you. And that way, because AI has access to a lot of data, which you don't have, basically it has access to a lot of information. You have, obviously, you as an individual, you have all the qualities: imagination, ability to build genuine, connections with people, ability to understand things that, sensorial things that AI will not understand, and just have an imagination and just have this critical thinking that probably AI will not have. It could mimic a lot of things, but mimicking and having something genuine, it's two different things. So, and I see also people use it as a glorified search engine, which is, yeah, you could search, uh, for information through AI, that's for sure. But AI is much more than that. It's much more than that. And this is something that I wanted to touch upon this evening, actually. So you see, I mean, when it comes to AI, when it comes to AI, you know, today most people obviously use AI as I say, as a vending machine. They enter a prompt and expect a finished answer to come out that needs to be highly relevant and highly good and something specific to what you're going through, to your situation, which very often they don't. They get something highly generic. And or they use AI as a glorified search engine, asking questions instead of thinking with it. So, I mean, you see, yeah, it's a kind of an iterative tool. I mean, you need to provide as much data as possible to get into a specific context, and then you'll get answers and you get much deeper with it. And most interactions with AI are kind of one-off, disconnected, and basically disposable. And there's very little continuity, memory, or long-term context in how AI is used. And there's a reasons behind it, to be honest with you. First things first, many AI tools that we have, whether with ChatGPT, Gemini, or the AI that exists out there, at this point, and I know it's changing. I know they're able to save as much data as possible about the context in which you are, and then use that data to give you the most relevant answers. But it used to be that they don't save any contextual data about you or about your specific situations, and that's why people you probably have, in this case, each time you have to enter the longest prompt as possible by providing as much data as possible, and hopefully it will give you something highly specific to your specific situation, your context. Now, if AI is able, not only within one chat or within the whole interaction with it, if it's able to learn from you by getting as much data as possible to create that, what we call context aware, the context about your specific situation, that where things are changing, and that where it's become really interesting to use AI. So the core misunderstanding about AI, you see, is that people believe AI's value comes from producing impressive outputs. But you see, in reality, AI's real value comes from participating in the thinking process. That's why I said I put it in a title, Copilot. It's supposed to be your assistant that works in the background, always observing, always getting as much data as possible from you in order to assist you in the best way possible. So the intelligence is not about answers themselves. It's about the context, the iteration, and the refinement of your thinking with AI. Treating AI like a tool, basically, in the way we used the search engine, which was a tool, limits what it can do for you, basically. So why current usage feels kind of shallow? You see, AI today is constantly resets context between interactions. You have a chat, and it remembers what the interaction, the dialogue that you had with AI within a chat. You change the chat, it doesn't remember anything. So it loses its basic purpose in this way. I mean, you could do as much. I mean, if you each time you open a new chat, you also, because you see the problem. What's really important about AI is that it has access to a lot of data, a lot of information, but to give you relevant information, as relevant as possible to your specific context, to your specific situation, it needs to get as much data as possible. But if it limits itself to one chat, I mean, it just limits itself to what you enter within that chat. Now, if it has your whole history, even more data about you, imagine the relevancy of how relevant the answers and the information will be, and the thinking would be with that AI. So long-term memory about the user is extremely limited right now, but that's the basis. That's the core of what AI is supposed to be. It's supposed to save as much data as possible um, about you. And I know some people are worried that I mean, somebody will use that data. Listen, I mean, yes, maybe somebody will use that data, but imagine the value that you're gonna receive by using AI, by having the information that you really need, and having this awareness about about yourself first things first, and also about the situations and the other things that you're going through basically. So that's where the real value comes from. So users must manually right now explain everything again and again within one chat, within another chat. It becomes complicated. So, and all of that, obviously, this creates like what we call friction and breaks the flow of thinking itself. So AI sits outside the activity instead of being embedded within it. You see, for AI to be highly useful and even addictive at a certain way, not in the wrong way, but in a good way, in order for it to be to have this kind of dependency, it needs to be open. It needs to save as much data as possible. That's the core thing about AI. And what AI Copilot actually means, you see, an AI Copilot is not something you consult occasionally. Something you consult occasionally, like I don't know, like a Google search. I mean, that's a tool. That's not AI. Definitely not AI. A Copilot is present while you work, think, and decide. It's always there. It's always in the background. It's always helping you. It evolves alongside you instead of responding in isolation. It's like an entity that always with you, understands you, and gets you basically. And that's where you get help on a personal level, but also probably on a professional level, and for any purposes, whatever they are. It follows basically your process rather than waiting for instructions. You see, that's where it's become interesting. When you have when you have an AI that actually you don't need to enter any instructions, it just follows you. It just observes and saves a lot of data about you, a lot of whatever it's your behavior, the way you saves your action. It saves actually your what you're saying, what you're not saying, the way you're saying it, and all of that creates like this context about you. And it participates in reasoning, not just output generation. You see, the real AI, the real value of AI is about reasoning, about thinking, and thinking with you. It's basically an augmentation tool. It's not gonna pretty much not replace anyone, but it's gonna augment a lot in a tremendous way, whatever you're doing. So a copilot versus a vending machine mindset, and that's something it's really important that we need to kind of not only dissociate, but really understand this concept of copilot. What's a copilot really is. You see, a vending machine responds to commands. A copilot engages in dialogue. It's all about dialogue. Vending machine gives static results, and a copilot adapts over time. It's not about giving one answer. It's about adaptation, iterations, and give you as much context as possible. A vending machine delivers outputs. A copilot builds understanding. More data, more context. That's where the copilot as AI kind of learns from you. It's interesting. It learns from you, but also you learn from it. So an vending machine replaces effort. A copilot augments thinking. That's really crucial. That's where that's the key to an AI actually as a copilot, is that it's a augmentation. It's augment the way you're thinking. It's augment the way you're deciding. It's also, and actually as a consequence, it's also changes the way your actions, your behavior, and everything that goes with. As for a vending machine or something much more isolated, it replaces simply the effort itself. So how a real copilot becomes intelligent? Well, you see, intelligence emerges from continuous interaction, not single prompt. You need to have as much, it's about learn. The machine needs to learn from you. It needs data basically, and the context builds through ongoing dialogue, over days, weeks, and years. And you see, that's something interesting because despite the fact that if you use any tools available, like right now, it is changing. They have more and more context awareness. They get more and more data about you. But previously, the way we did it, and we did the multiple simulations, and is that we had to save a lot of data about contextual data before we were using OpenAI API. And one thing that we discovered is that when AI have enough contextual data about you you as a person, your thinking, your emotions, your behavior, basically about you don't even need to enter any instruction or any prompt. It just, even if you say a couple of words verbally, obviously it's translated into words, into text, AI already gets what you're going through and already gives you some options or some way of thinking about the situation, and it's already understand the patterns of what's going on, because you see your emotions, your behavior, your sentiment, your thinking. It's all on a very fundamental level. It's all mathematical patterns. Where what I would love to sometimes I love to say, it's not mathematical patterns, it's geometrical patterns. But it's the same way when it comes to mathematics. So it's all of that could be reduced to mathematical patterns that AI obviously understand. And this is where it's become interesting, And sometimes it takes weeks, months to really get enough information, enough data about you, about the context, to pretty much build a good model or a good, context about, a specific situation, and then you get really interesting, not only a dialogue, but very interesting concept that you could discover with AI. And I think I did a video about brainstorming with AI, which is very different from brainstorming with other people, because what AI doesn't have, it doesn't have an ego. It's not perfect, obviously. It has some biases, obviously. There's no perfect system, but it doesn't have an ego. He's just, it doesn't have like this emotional filtering of things that if you're brainstorming with other teammates, they have, people have the ego. They have, the brain's filters a lot of information. People don't want to say things that they think that are kind of inappropriate. There's a lot of limitations. We humans, obviously, but AI don't has the same limitations, and it has access to a lot of data, which means the brainstorming, especially when you are in this iterative process, it becomes almost, a way to explore things that you never thought you're gonna explore, and discover things that you didn't know about. These things that you don't know, but these things that you don't know, which means you're not even conscious about them. And that's where it becomes really, really interesting. So preferences, priorities, and patterns are learned gradually by AI itself. Feedback loop refine how the copilot support decision making. And memory transform AI from reactive to proactive. That's where it got interesting. It's where AI, you don't have to each time give it instructions with as much data as possible. It becomes proactive. Actually, it's understanding what's going on, and it's actually acts before you could even think about acting. And that's where it's really becomes really interesting. So if we go into 2035, like 10 years from now, and obviously I don't have a crystal ball, I don't know what will happen in 10 years from now, but based on all the experimentation that I did with AI and all the simulation that we did with it, I could quite precisely say, because what will really change with AI is that the computational power, the processing power of microchips will increase, and without the capabilities of AI will also increase, including the context awareness, including everything that goes with. Actually, I got through a little bit over a timeline in my last live stream. But if we're looking about what will happen by 2035, when AI will become a real copilot, and how it's going to be used, well, you see, your personal history, goals, and long-term directions will be kind of understood by AI. Your working patterns, habit, and recurring challenges will also be kind of included with AI itself. Emotional and cognitive signals will inferred from interaction. And that's something interesting that actually I learned and I discovered, is that our emotions and cognitive signals, whatever it's emotions, sentiment, the way we talk, the way we don't talk, the way we act or not act, all of that has a lot of data, a lot of information about us. And that's something that is quite valuable for AI, because it's going to understand things about us that we don't really realize, that we don't really aware about us. We're going to discover beliefs that we have that we haven't been aware of. And this is something that I discovered through a lot of simulations with AI, is that there's a lot of things that I wasn't aware about even myself. And I'm sure there's an expression called know thyself, to know who you are, and a lot of us pretty much don't really know who we really are. And this is where AI will kind of change that situation by itself. So everything, your calendar, location, projects, and responsibilities will kind of be part of this AI model, so to speak. Your documents, conversation, the decision history. So everything that is related to you. And your environmental context, not just the text input. So any data, whatever it's visual, vocal, anything that AI could grab upon will be part of its model that will kind of try to understand you and try to help you in any ways possible. So we'll see that proactivity that we don't see today. So what changes technically we'll see by 2035? Well, you see, one thing for sure, and I already touched upon it, is that compute becomes cheaper, faster, and more energy efficient. All those microchips, I know right now they consume, they consume a lot of energy. They're quite slow. Yes, they're slow, even the fastest one. But you see the computational power, actually, the processing power, increasing. It's actually doubles every 2.5 years, and I think it will even increase, even accelerate by now. So we're gonna see much more powerful microchips, that's for sure. They're gonna be less latency, drops, enough for real-time interaction. So instead of entering a prompt, huge prompt, and then wait a couple of seconds to get an answer, which, by the way, well, maybe more than a couple of seconds, somebody will, I'm sure one of you will say, yeah, it takes hours and hours, like maybe not hours, but it takes a good 1 minute to get an answer from AI. But you see, that's where things will change, because you will get answer almost instantaneously. Actually, you won't need to give any instruction. AI will automatically, even without necessarily interacting with it, it will give information about what's going on and what things could happen, and just it's gonna be almost alive, what we call alive today. So more processing happens directly on personal device, basically. Right now, a lot of processing that happens in huge data centers, that kind of, because AI needs a lot of energy. But when the microchip will be fast enough, small enough, and powerful enough, it will happen on the personal devices. AI agents remain active instead of session based. You see, in the same way today, your mobile device is always connected to the internet. It wasn't the case in the 1990s. I don't know if some of you will remember that dial-up internet, where you have to enter. Oh my gosh, I don't even remember what exactly you have to enter, but you need to have a phone line, and then you need to connect to the internet to download web pages, basically HTML pages. Well, this is what happens with AI right now. I mean, you have to open it and then ask something or enter something, and it will get you some answer via in the form of text, images, or if you're lucky enough, videos. Small 10 or 20 seconds clip, basically. It's not gonna be like that in 10 years from now. It's just gonna be always on, always here, in the same way that your mobile devices are always connected to the internet. You're not asking yourself whether you're on the web or not. You're just there. I mean, whatever you're looking at social media, whatever you're watching videos, Netflix, consume music, or even working. I mean, some of you are working remotely. I mean, that's you on the on the internet. Like, it's always on. It's always connected. That's the way AI will be in 10 years. So yeah, they're always active, and integration across tools becomes seamless. I don't think there will be issues of integration between tools. I think all the tools will be kind of on the same infrastructure, in the same way that all the appliances that we have are connected to electricity. Web application and mobile application are connected to the internet. In the same way, I mean, everything will be kind of integrated. And even so, if some applications or tool are not integrated, AI will come and integrate them basically one way or another. So when friction starts to disappear, you see, you no longer need to carefully prompt the AI. And actually, even today, after all the simulations, all the experimentation that I did with AI, I don't prompt anymore the AI itself. Like, I don't enter any instructions. I just open it and just talk with it, like verbally, like vocally, basically. Obviously, it takes the whole thing and translate it into text. But since maybe a year and a half, even 2 years, I stopped, carefully prompting or carefully creating specific instructions to AI. I just giving as much data as possible about what I wanted it to do or what's my situation is. I don't sometimes I don't even ask it to do anything. I'm just describing my situation, and then the AI by itself will kind of give me some answers, some help, or just give me some options about what we can do from there, and what the situation is. Obviously, AI needs to have some context awareness. I mean, if it doesn't have any context awareness, it will give you something highly generic that has nothing to do with you, and that's the most frustrating thing. So context is captured automatically instead of manually. That's really important. Memory persists across time and activity. I mean, you also always need to learn from you. Interaction becomes conversational and natural, and this is something that I kind of started to do since I think 3 years ago, where I decided, no, we're not gonna interact with the AI with text. We're gonna interact with the AI only through vocal conversations, only vocally. It needs to be highly natural. It needs to be easy to do. In the same way we interact with people, we interact them usually vocally. Sometimes we text them. I know. I mean, some of you are quite an introverted people, but listen, that's kind of the most natural and the most easy way to interact with a machine like AI. And AI fades into the background of your workflow. You're not supposed to see AI. AI is supposed to be like internet, like electricity. It's supposed to be somewhere there, somewhere in the background, but always listening, always learning, and always helping you. That's the real value. So how people will actually use AI as a copilot? Thinking out loud while this is one, just a couple of examples, like thinking out loud while working instead of planning everything internally. This is something that a lot of highly neurotic people, and not only neurotic people, just people in general are doing. We're planning, we're thinking about what we're going to do, what we're not going to do. But imagine that you have some background machine that actually thinking out loud while you're working. It's already pre-planning. It's already helping you to understand what's really going on, and giving you some options that you haven't been thinking about. So another example, asking the AI what they may be missing or overlooking. Yeah, that's a huge one. That's a huge one. This is something that saved me multiple times. When I started to do all those work with simulating what AI is going to be in the future, and doing all those experimentation, is that I became aware how many blind spots I have, how many things I don't see, and I don't even understand that I don't see them. I'm not even aware of them. And this is huge. This is just huge. I mean, you know, asking AI what we're missing, what or we overlooked, and it could be for business projects, it could be for personal projects, it could be just for everyday interactions with people. I mean, imagine the way you're gonna think about all those things, and the decision and the type of decision you're gonna make, because your thinking influences your actions influence your behavior, and then your whole life could basically change, just because you're changing your thinking and you don't miss those blind spots anymore. Another example is exploring multiple options together before choosing a direction. Again, we don't need to be highly over analytical about this, but it saves a lot of energy and saves a lot of, especially for people, especially right now where we have so much choice. We could do so many things. We could go in so many directions, learning about so many professions, and actually getting into those professions or careers. But are those careers and professions and things that we wanted to do, are those right for us or not? That's where it's become interesting when you have some AI that really have a good understanding about you. Another example is stress testing assumption and decisions in real time. Yeah. Usually the way people are doing it, and I know some people are doing it even with the AI right now, but it's a small minority. In companies, usually they stress test by having a bunch of people that has different opinions about a specific product or a specific service, or just a specific process or system, or whatever it is. People have their own biases, they have their own perceptions. It's a limited way of doing things, and I sure with the AI it's gonna be, you'll get a much more complete answer and a much more complete understanding and of that, of whatever it is, whether specific product or service, if you stress test with the AI itself. Now, another one is using AI as a second cognitive perspective, not a replacement. And again, AI is like, it's not even, people say it's like having a second brain. That's not true. It's not a second brain. It's an entity that gives you, it's basically a lens where you see things that you haven't seen before. When you become aware of things that you haven't been aware before, where you get the data and information that you really needed, that you didn't have access before, because it just AI has access to a lot of data which you are not. You have kind of limited as an individual. So it's not gonna replace humans, unless you're doing something highly even repetitive. But even in highly repetitive tasks, even if 99% of what you're doing is repetitive, there's 1% that you need to think critically, and AI, probably not gonna do that. It could mimic the critical aspect of critical thinking, but AI is not here to critically thinking. It's not here to build genuine connections. It's not there to use your imagination, whatever it is. It's here to augment you and give you an ability that you haven't been able to have before. It mimics cognitive abilities, but it's not. There's a question of genuine. It's not genuine actually. So it's not a replacement. It's not gonna replace you. That's for sure. And I see a lot of people talking about this idea of post-labor economics, that we're gonna get to a point where there's just no jobs. Um, and this is not this is not actually how our civilization, our Western society evolved. Actually, each time you have a new technology that comes, it comes with with challenges, and for those challenges, you need people to resolve those challenges. But also, it gives new capabilities. And each time we have new capabilities, our needs they 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 don't cap. Our needs actually evolve, and we want something, you know, we want something more. And to satisfy those needs, well, we need people. So actually, no, we're not gonna. AI not gonna replace people, and all of those fearful beliefs about AI will take over the world, and it will construct and it will build uh, corporations, but by itself it will interact with other AIs and build a whole economy of. Well, first things first, if we're talking about economy, what's an economy? An economy is an exchange of goods and services between who? Between people, not between machines. If it's an exchange of goods and services between machines, it becomes simply a layer of automations. We already have this layer actually. If we look at if we look at the internet, let's say it's a network of computers. Nobody manually um, put the switch on and off each time you go on the internet. You know, social media, you download a web page, you upload something. There's always back and forth. All of that happens. All of those interactions, all of those communications, they are automated. Uh, and we could say that it's an exchange of services between machines, but that's not an economy, it's just an automated system by itself. And if it happens that AI will automatically create companies, corporations, and actually, exchange services, whatever it is. I mean, the economy will get to another level and will become just more. How can I say that? More sophisticated, and we will value things that are not valuable today or less valuable today. So our needs will evolve, our preferences will evolve, and we will value things that we don't even think value right now. So I mean, there was a time where aluminium was more valuable than gold. It was, I think it's in the 19th century. Now now from bauxite, we actually understood how to extract aluminium from bauxite, and now today we have aluminium foil that we throw it into the garbage after cooking something. Now, this is kind of things that just if you see the technology and how it evolves, you see that humans are always in the center of things. The only thing that kind of creates problems is the way we structure our economies and the systems that we kind of put in place. It's not the technology itself. So AI as a cognitive mirror, and that's something really interesting, because you see, when you use AI as a real copilot and having dialogue with it, a dialogue on basically on a daily basis, not just to get something from it, but simply having a dialogue. Um, AI basically reflects blind spots humans are unaware of. That's something that I already mentioned. It highlights contradictions in reasoning or even priorities for us. It surfaces patterns that intuition misses. And I'm not against intuitions, but very often we have patterns, we have behaviors, we have things that are just underneath the surface, but AI is able to create all those connections and see things that we usually don't see as humans, because our mind, our brain, um, is actually filtering so much information about the surrounding. We only actually understand and perceive only a small fraction of what's really exists out there. So it challenges emotional or even habitual decisions that we have. It increases clarity rather than authority. And this is something that a lot, I think, the most, I think the most valuable service that um, a lot of consultants provide, and this is something that is kind of undervalued, is to give specific clients clarity. Once you have clarity, once you are aware and understand what's really going on, then you could make quality decisions. Now, how productivity really changes, let's say 10 years from now with AI. Well, first things first, less time spent executing repetitive tasks. That's the obvious one. More time spent on judgment and direction. Less execution and more, thinking, highly, being critical about specific things, understanding, am I on the right direction or not? That's the most important things. Faster iteration with fewer dead ends. That's really important, because as human you are highly limited, but AI could go into as many iterations as you want. It doesn't get, it doesn't get tired. It doesn't get anything. You could go as much as you want without having any actually what we call dead ends. Better prioritization under uncertainty, that's for sure, because we always will have uncertainty in life. That's something that we cannot we cannot eliminate. We're always in a state of uncertainty, whatever we like it or not. But what's important is to have the best prioritization as possible. Also, higher leverage per unit of effort. Well, that's the definition of efficiency. The idea of using AI is to become more and more efficient, and you're losing less time just simply understanding in what direction you're going, what decisions you're making. Is it a good decision? Obviously, AI is not perfect. It could give you a direction that you really don't want. But if it has enough data about you, it will understand you the way even you don't understand yourself. Okay, psychological impacts on humans. You see, it will, and that's something interesting, and I actually experimented on multiple people. It's actually reduced mental load and decision fatigue. When you're thinking about this decision, what decision to take, what not to take, AI, and some people say, well, if AI will take decisions on your behalf, you'll become lazy, you'll think less. We are in a world where you have so many options, and it wasn't like that before. Back where we were in small villages and communities in the 19th, 18th, 17th century, and even 2,000 years ago, we had very few choices. I mean, and I'm not sure that people at the time, and yes, I mean, the rate of mortality was just amazing, staggering. But we didn't have this decision fatigue. Right now, we have decision fatigue because we have just too many choices, and we simply don't know what to choose, because if I choose this, I will waste my time. If I choose that, I will always also waste my time, and my life is over. That's where people freak it out. And that's where AI, I'm not saying it's gonna be perfect. It's not gonna be perfect, but at least it it actually eliminates a good portion of this load, this mental load, which by the way it's good. It's not gets you lazy, it gets you more efficient. It gives you the opportunity to think deeper, to do some things, to put your energy where it's supposed to go, and not in other things that just where you have just a waste of energy basically. So also a couple of things that I also noticed is that people have less anxiety caused by uncertainty and blind spots, because when they became aware of what's going on and what's in what situation they are right now, they kind of, the anxiety goes lower and lower, because even AI will guide the person in a certain way where where the anxiety less and less existent, because the anxiety is basically the fear of if we're talking about uncertainty, of choosing things that you don't prefer, or choosing things that will put you in a situation that you don't prefer, you don't like, or are not aligned with you. And this is where AI is able to provide a lot of awareness. Less overthinking and rumination. That's a typical thing that people are doing right now. Increased confidence grounded in clarity. Yeah, that's one. It's quite important. Um, you see, there's people who have this blind confidence based on ignorance. You know nothing, and you're confident that you don't know nothing. I mean, well, and especially if you are um, if you observe very carefully specific people that are highly confident, not everyone, but some of them, um, you know, those are the people that know the less. Actually, they will the less educated, but they such less educated that they think they know everything, and they're highly confident. Um, but there's another way to be confident is to have this really good clarity. And very often people that have a lot of experience, you see them as confident, but why are they confident? Is that because they have a lot of information from experience that gives them that clarity about how things happen and how they will happen. And you see those things, you see those people with 30-40 years of experience in a specific domain, in a specific sector. Well, they saw so many things, so many projects, so many operations that happen, is that they have clarity, and that's why they're confident. That's it's not it's understandable basically. So AI could provide that. Imagine if you have that kind of clarity. More intentional and deliberate action. It all comes with the with this idea that people understand what's going on. It gives you another way of thinking about things, and thinking in a deeper way. So why this is not fully possible today with AI that we're using right now? First things first, the computational power. The processing power of chips is limited. AI tools that we have right now are limited. Compute and memory are still highly constrained. Um, to experience AI in a way people will experience in 10 years from now, you almost you almost need to do it. You almost well the way we are doing it basically by simulating the AI of the future is that we're doing it in a very deliberate way, and we have a specific routines that we follow on a daily basis, and this kind of simulates how eventually it's going to be used when AI won't have that much friction, which it has right now. Um, you know, right now, in order for it, in order for people to use it, they need to kind of having this routine, basically use it on a daily basis, and for that you need to be highly disciplined, which you cannot ask it for from people. There's just so much friction right now, and yeah, I mean, in the privacy and trust models are still evolving. Obviously, interfaces are still clunky and tool centric. It's not like I'm just AI just on and hearing whatever I'm saying and whatever I'm doing, and eventually it will react to what I'm doing. You need to open the tool, you need to choose the chat, you need to you know open the functionality and actually talk within the functionality if you wanted to use as tool with which you interact in a vocal way. Also, cultural habits threat AI as a gadget. Yeah, today is mostly like a lot of people think it's simply a nice gadget. In the same way, in the 1990s, they thought like internet is interesting, but it has no effect on productivity. And you hear it right now. I mean, corporations say, "Well, yeah, it's interesting, but it has absolutely no effect on productivity," which is normal because we are at very early stages of what AI could be, basically. People are not yet used to thinking collaboratively with machines. That's and I see it in many companies right now. People prefer to brainstorm with other people and to collaborate with other, which is okay, which is good. I mean, I'm not against collaboration. It's what we need to do. But collaborating with AI or with the machine, it's yeah, I mean, it's it's creepy. It's creepy. People don't like it. We're not used to that. We're not used to that culturally. We're not used to do that. It's the first time that we have access to an information synthesizer that we call AI, and we just need to learn how to use it to augment ourselves. Technically speaking, it will take some time. Even today, just people, many people are thinking that everyone is using AI, but in reality, if you look at the statistics, only 5% of people are using, well, kind of using AI on a weekly basis, not even daily basis, weekly basis. So we think with all the hype that we see and all those models, we think that everybody is using AI, but in reality, it's simply not the case. I mean, we are at very early stages in the same way that, in the 90s, very few people, especially the early 90s, very few people used internet. I think even in the 90s, more people used internet that today are using AI. We think everybody is using AI, but in reality, that's simply not the very early stages, like in reality. So why this will become normal, actually? The whole thing, the same pattern happened with the internet itself. I see the same process, AI versus internet, and I mean, we have a hype. There was a hype with internet. Then we had the .com boom that actually a lot of people invested, a lot of people lost a lot of money, and we'll see the same thing, maybe in a different way with AI, but it's the same pattern. It's the same process that happens with the internet. Um, it will take some time for us to learn how to use AI, and for AI to become much more efficient, much more powerful than what it is right now. We have early limitation created by skepticism. We're learning how to use it. Constraints gradually disappear with time, and adoptions caught up with capability. The technology becomes invisible and ambient in the same way that electricity becomes the part of our infrastructure. We don't think about it. In the same way, internet, that we also don't think about it, where almost every app, every tool right now, one way or another, is connected to the internet, whether we like it or not. So AI will be part of this invisible infrastructure that we're gonna use on a daily basis, basically, without even thinking about it. Now, to close the whole, live stream, and I know that it was kind of a big. I was kind of throwing a lot of ideas and a lot of thinking about AI. But to summarize the whole thing, you see, AI is not here to replace human thinking. That's the big. It's the most. It's an illusion. In the same way, internet changes the way we share information and content. In the same way, AI will change the way we are aware of our environment. It's gonna change our thinking. It's gonna change the way we take decisions, but it's not replacing human thinking. It just augments it and makes